So we look at our devotional for this week. I want to tie it into last week's devotional. And I stressed last week that Jesus is on the throne, that he is unmoved by the cares of this world, that he is worthy of all of our worship because of who he is. I want to just highlight something that I didn't draw attention to last week, but I do think is very important. So when the angel was describing to John Jesus, he he said, "Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Son of David." He saw Jesus in his heavenly glory. But when John looked to see Jesus, he didn't see the lion. He saw the lamb that was slain. And so, from the human perspective, John saw the one who died for him. And so, while Jesus is not diminished, whether we believe in him or not, the song that was being sung was a new song, that Jesus, in coming into the world, had done something new, and that through this amazing sacrifice had accomplished something that had never been accomplished before. And this week I would like to look at the passage found in 1 John 3, verse 1, and that is, "Behold, what manner of love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called the children of God." So, this God who is unmoved by earthly situations, the Father who sits on the throne, and the Lamb who's beside him, that looked like he'd been slain, while unmoved in their being, are very much moved in compassion and love for his people. And I just want to illustrate that point with a story. Happened when I was serving in Flin Flon. There was a lady by the name of Faye, a very dear lady in our church who had worked tirelessly uh, playing the piano as part of our Alpha program. She had been quite sick for some time, and finally she had gotten a referral to a specialist. And while she was on her way down to that referral, one of the ladies, not from our church, but a friend of hers, just had this real intense sense that we should be praying for her. And so while she was going down to Saskatoon, we called together this prayer meeting. And there was about 15 of us from different churches, as our Alpha program was interdenominational. And we were all praying for Faye. And in the midst of that time, during that time, we got a call that Eric, Faye's husband, had heard that we were at the church, and he called with the news that he had quite advanced cancer. Now, during that time, or soon after, and it came from various sources, was this sense that Faye was going to recover from the cancer, and even that she was going to go and proclaim the gospel to people that she had never met. I remember that very distinctly. As the weeks went on, and the um, conviction that Faye was going to get better grew and grew, in my spirit, I just wasn't entirely feeling comfortable about that. And I prayed and I asked, Lord, what's going on here? And I received a, a picture. I'd almost want to say a vision, but a picture of myself at the local Catholic church performing her funeral. And when I say a picture, I don't just mean one image. I saw the sermon that I was to preach. I knew the topic. I knew everything about it. I could see different aspects of this truth very clearly. And so that stuck with me. I continued to pray for Faye that she would be healed. I visited her in the hospital and heard comments that she was going to be healed, but always had this in the back of my mind. Now, it did come to pass that she passed away. And not long after that, I got a call from Eric saying that he was going to be asking Alpha Doric, a friend of his who had helped in other services that his family had needed. He was going to do the preaching, and that they were looking at the Pentecostal church, or at least that was his hope, that they would be using the Pentecostal church. I was really surprised. What's going on here? But shortly after that, I got a call from Eric, and he said that the funeral director had said that the Pentecostal church was too small, and that we needed to use the Catholic church, and that in addition to that, Al had contacted him and said that he wasn't available to do the funeral. So I ended up doing that funeral, and it was very strange because I preached the exact passage that I had seen in my vision. I It was just as I saw it, and I mean, I couldn't believe this. And I wasn't sure how much I had told Eric about this, but I really got the sense that God wanted me to use this story this week. And so I contacted Eric this and just asked him for permission. And I found out some things that I didn't know about this story, other aspects of it that I had yet to learn because I hadn't asked. One was that he had the opportunity after I had left, and before they had another pastor, or while his pastor was away, a friend and colleague at the mine had passed away, and all the other ministers were out of town, and he ended up doing the funeral, and he used the message that I had preached for his wife. But I learned something else, that the passage that I had used, the central passage that I had used for the sermon, was precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. That was significant to Eric in two ways that I didn't know before I talked to him. And that is that at least three times while he had sat with Faye, that passage had come into the readings. And he had been troubled by it because he was wanting to say uplifting things and was trusting that Faye would be healed, but that had come up three different times during their times as he sat with her by her bed as she was cancer. And then also that um, that same passage is on their tombstone, and that he had chosen that passage as one of the scriptures that would be on her and his tombstone. As for the other part of the prophecy that I didn't understand, and that was that Faye was going to proclaim the good news to a people she did not know. Through a series of events, Eric had ended up that he was going to be going to the Philippines, and he received some money, some insurance money, and had decided that he was going to make a donation on Faye's behalf to build churches. And he and his youngest daughter were going to go to the Philippines together. And he was starting to wonder, well, is this what he was supposed to do? And he had contacted, I believe it was his sister, and his sister had talked to his older daughter, and she just was amazed because on the day when Faye passed away, she had a momentary vision again of Faye in this new culture, uh, happy and walking down a path. And she knew that that was in the country of the Philippines and had never understood that vision until that moment. This, dear friends, is an example of precious privilege we have being the sons and daughters of God. I wish in every case there was such a clarity in the divine purpose for things that we do not understand. Because Faye was a dear member of the congregation, but also someone who had an incredible influence in Emily's life. In fact, you may have heard her talk about Faye. She has on a number of occasions. So it didn't make sense to me why God would take her. And yet, while I still don't have that answer, I know that God loved Faye, and that God loved those around her enough to give comfort even in the midst of the valley of death. So I want us to understand that that same God who is exalted high above the earth, the one who comes near to us, and doesn't always remove us from our struggles and our trials and our sickness and our disease, but walks through it with us. Why? Because we are his sons and daughters. Amen.